Discover how one black CEO transformed humiliation into an inspiring $2.4 billion victory revealed. Marcus Lee stood before the polished conference table, sweat pooling at the nape of his neck as he faced a wall of stern looks. The stakes were high, this meeting could change everything for him. Just days earlier, his mother had kissed him goodbye, eyes sparkling with faith. She believed in him, thought he was the embodiment of everything the American dream promised. But here he was, about to meet that dream with crushing disappointment. His rival, a slick, underhanded tycoon named Derek Ellison, leaned back in his chair, smugness emanating from every inch of his designer suit. "This is cute, Marcus," he sneered, loud enough for potential investors to hear. "You actually think you can compete with the big dogs?" Laughter rippled through the room, cold and biting. The insults cut deeper than Marcus could be anticipated. His heart raced, cheeks flushed with shame. The humiliation struck hard, piercing through years of hard work and relentless hustle. This moment felt like an earthquake, bringing him to his knees, shaking the very foundation of his dreams. The gleaming skyline of Chicago outside felt far away, a stark contrast to the suffocation he felt inside the boardroom. But as he walked home, each step heavy with defeat, memories flooded back. Growing up in a small, crowded apartment with his immigrant parents, he learned the power of resilience. His father, weary yet determined, rolled dough in their family-owned bakery, while his mother's soothing voice humbly urged him to reach for the stars. The love surrounding him, neighbors cheering through brick walls, drew him back. Stepping through that worn door, he was greeted by familiar, warm laughter. His mom's green beans simmered on the stove, infusing the air with comfort. "You okay, son?" she asked, worry etched across her features. It was in that moment, wrapped in the embrace of his family, that he began to rise from the ashes of his humiliation. "Let us talk about our sacrifices, Ma," he said, determination inching back into his voice. They shared stories under the dim light, sparking a fire in Marcus. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was honoring everything his family poured into him. He could hear their love echoing in the streets, pushing him closer to confronting the corporate world. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With renewed spirit, Marcus dove headfirst into the tumultuous world of venture capital. Every networking event felt like a battlefield, and every handshake could mean triumph or defeat. He transformed his initial pain into a powerful initiative meant to lift up his community. Just as momentum began to build, shadows crept into his journey. News of sabotage echoed in corporate circles, intentions twisted. Doubt crept in, would history repeat itself? Each time he felt the blades of betrayal, his neighbors' voices floated around him. They reminded him of collective strength. Unity was his secret weapon. Now facing a decision that could seal his fate, Marcus stood on the edge of a new dawn. Could he conquer the demons of his past? Would he become the hero of not only his story but for those looking up to him? His heart raced, questions looming like storm clouds. His journey was just beginning. Marcus couldn't shake off the weight of that meeting. Each day felt like a tightrope walk, stretched thin with expectation and fear. He spent long hours researching, networking, and crafting pitches. With his community at his back, he was determined to go from an underdog to a contender, but uncertainty gnawed at him. Was he really making a difference? Was anyone even listening? Late nights turned into early mornings, and the fatigue wrapped around him like an unwelcome blanket. He often found himself staring blankly at the walls of his tiny apartment, wondering if he had the strength to continue fighting. Then, one evening, a message lit up his phone. It was an invitation to a community summit focused on entrepreneurship and investment. The hypnotic thrill of potential surged through him. Heart racing, he clicked on the link, eyes widening as he noted the impressive panel of leaders from diverse backgrounds, each with stories of struggle and success. "Mom!" he called, barely containing his excitement. "You won't believe this." She rushed in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What is it, sweetheart?" "I got invited to speak at a summit. They want to hear about my project. This could be big." The pride in her eyes brought tears to his own. "You've worked so hard, Marcus. This is your moment." She hugged him tightly, and in that embrace, he felt a surge of energy. The day of the summit arrived, the conference hall buzzing like a beehive. Marcus could hardly breathe. Dressed in a tailored suit, which still felt a size too big, he stood backstage waiting for his turn. With each speaker preceding him, he listened intently, soaking in their wisdom, but doubt crept in. Would they see him as he saw himself, a young man fighting against overwhelming odds? When his name was finally called, Marcus stepped onto the stage, the lights bright and the audience shifting in their seats. He noticed faces curious, eager, like they were leaning in. It ignited something within him. He began his speech, sharing tales of his family's sacrifices, the vibrant energy of his community, and how he envisioned uplifting others through his company. Halfway through, he glanced at the audience. Some nodded along, smiles slowly blossoming. His heart raced, he was connecting with them. The stories of struggle and triumph intertwined with his vision. By the end, he looked out to find applause rolling through the room, a wave of sound crashing over him. After his speech, he was bombarded with questions and interest. Ideas sparked as conversations began, each exchanging business cards and shaking hands. It was exhilarating. Days turned into weeks, and following the summit, new opportunities flowed in. Investors began to show interest, believing in Marcus's vision. But with every new flavor of success, lingering shadows from Derek's underhanded tactics flickered at the edge. The whispers of sabotage grew louder, a reminder that the corporate world was riddled with conflict, but just as he was ready to move forward, a shocking message arrived late one night. It was from a whistleblower within Derek's company. They had information that could change everything for Marcus. As he read the message over and over, tension gripped at his chest. Could this be the break he needed, or would it pull him further into a web of corporate intrigue? His pulse quickened. What should he do next? As he stared at the screen, the choice looming like a thunderous storm, he wondered if this battle would propel him towards triumph or plunge him deeper into chaos. Could he trust this anonymous tip? Would it lead him to victory, or was it a trap? Marcus stared at his phone, battling the urge to throw it against the wall. The anonymous tip had sparked a fierce conflict within him. Trusting someone he couldn't see, let alone know, felt like a game of Russian roulette. Yet, this could be the leverage he so desperately needed. He paced his tiny apartment, thoughts racing in a chaotic whirl. The influence of Derek loomed like a storm cloud overhead. If there was that much negativity in the corporate world, this could change everything for him and those relying on his dreams. He sat down, phone clutched between his palms, heart pounding in his chest. Taking a deep breath, he decided to reply, seeking clarification. "What do you know? Can we meet?" His fingers trembled as he hit send, knowing he might have just opened a door to deeper troubles. As he waited for a response, anxiety bubbled like soda in a shaken can. He pulled up his social media page, scrolling through messages of support from friends and family. All of them believed in him, and that brought a flicker of warmth. Holding on to that thought, he envisioned the impact he could make if he succeeded. "The world's counting on you," he whispered to himself, the echo of his mother's words still fresh in his mind. Hours flew by, and just as doubt began to creep in, another message lit up his screen. "Meet me at the cafe near the summit venue tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll explain everything." Marcus took a shaky breath. A flicker of excitement transformed into worry. What was he getting into? He glanced at the clock. Sleep would not come easily tonight. Morning arrived too soon, and he paced back and forth, running through scenarios in his mind. The cafe was just a few blocks away, but with each step, his courage would waver. What if it was a trap? What if he was stepping into a snare set by Derek? Shaking off the fear, he reminded himself why he was fighting in the first place. The potential to uplift his community, to create opportunities. Those visions anchored him. The cafe buzzed with energy as he walked in, the smell of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around him like a reassuring hug. People chatted, laughter echoed, but Marcus felt hyper-aware, eyes darting around searching for a stranger who could reshape his fate. He found a corner seat, ordered a coffee, and tried to calm his racing heart. Time stretched on, thick with anticipation. Then, at precisely 3 p.m., a figure entered, a woman in sleek business attire, hair neatly pulled back. She looked around, her eyes landing on him. "Marcus?" She approached with an air of confidence. "That's me," he replied, forcing a smile despite the apprehension clenching his gut. She slid into the seat opposite him, a mix of urgency and caution in her expression. "You need to know what Derek's been up to," she said, leaning in slightly. "And it's worse than you think." His pulse quickened again. As she began revealing details, he felt an unexpected chill run down his spine. This was more than he had bargained for. What had he stepped into? Her next words gripped him. "You have the chance to turn this around, but you need to act quickly." The urgency mirrored his own heart racing, and he felt veins filled with determination. Could he harness this information and ignite his journey? Would this be the turning point? As the weight of her revelation settled in, he realized there was no turning back. Marcus was on the brink of something monumental. But as the cafe noises faded into the background, one thought echoed: was he prepared to face the truths that would unfold next? His hands gripped the edge of the table as she spoke, body language shifting from anxious to determined. "Derek's been siphoning funds off projects meant for community development," she disclosed, voice barely above a whisper yet filled with conviction. "He's creating a facade to shield his malicious actions." Marcus blinked, trying to absorb the information. Every word sliced deeper, igniting a fire in his belly. The very dreams he cherished were under threat from someone he had once respected. "What do you mean siphoning? How is he doing this?" His voice was steadier now, fueled by an emerging urgency. The woman glanced around, her eyes darting to the other patrons. "I've seen the accounts. He's manipulating numbers, funneling money into his own private ventures while neglecting the very projects that could uplift this community." With every detail, Marcus felt the weight grow heavier, but at the same time, inspiration sparked. This was no longer just about ambition, it was about justice. "We can expose him," he said, heart racing. "We can take him down." She held up a hand, shaking her head. "It's not that simple. He has powerful allies. Going after him without a solid plan could backfire badly." "Then what do we do?" The desperation in Marcus's voice was evident. He had come seeking answers, but now felt more lost than ever. "I have a plan," she leaned in closer, voice firm yet filled with hope. "But it involves risk. We need evidence to expose him. We can't just charge in guns blazing. The right timing is essential." Time. It was the one thing Marcus didn't know if he had. "What could you possibly have in mind?" "Sit tight," she said, a hint of a smile forming at the corner of her lips. "I've got my sources. I can get the information, but you need to provide the support. Together, we can gather enough evidence to build a case." Marcus swallowed hard. The stakes were impossibly high. The vulnerable position he found himself in felt like a tightrope with no safety net. "And what's in it for you?" Her eyes twinkled with a mix of determination and mischief. "What's in it for you is a chance to bring down a corrupt system. I want to see this place thriving, not torn apart by greed." The energy in the room seemed to shift, the buzz of conversation faded into the background like a distant hum. He felt a mounting sense of responsibility, a weight upon his shoulders that felt oddly liberating. Okay, he nodded resolutely, channeling every ounce of courage he had. Let us do it. But as they spoke, Marcus's mind spun with uncertainty. Was he capable of navigating this treacherous path? Victory was within reach, yet every step toward it felt cloaked in shadows. He needed to be prepared not just to gather evidence but to face Derek and everything he represented. Suddenly, his phone buzzed vehemently on the table, breaking his thoughts. He glanced down and froze. It was a message from Derek himself. The tension in the cafe thickened as Marcus grasped his phone like a lifebuoy in stormy waters. Marcus, we need to talk. You've been a distraction. Be careful. His heart raced faster. Derek was on to him. Their battle had officially begun. He exchanged a worried glance with the woman. What's wrong? She asked, instinctively leaning closer. He met her gaze, determination battling fear within him. They're on to us. We need to move fast. As they exchanged plans, a familiar ache settled in the pit of his stomach. Would he have the strength to see this through? Would he be able to navigate the darkness ahead? The answers laid hidden in the treacherous waters of corporate deceit, ready to be uncovered. All he had to do was swim, or drown trying, but how deep had Derek's corruption spread? Would he uncover the truth before it was all too late? Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he studied the woman's face. Her determination fueled his own resolve, but doubt lingered just beneath the surface. Derek's warning pulsed through his mind, a threat sharper than a knife. He couldn't take this lightly. What's the first step? He asked, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. Gather information discreetly. Derek's office isn't heavily monitored during lunch hours. If we can access his financial reports without raising suspicion, we might find something concrete, she replied, her eyes glinting with purpose. We're diving in blind, he warned, but her confidence was infectious. We have to trust our instincts. This man thinks he is untouchable, but everyone's got a weakness. Let's find his. Every second felt like a ticking bomb. They rifled through potential strategies quickly. Marcus envisioned the office building, a fortress of ambition he had once admired, now a den of lies. What if he has everything locked down? Then we'll be creative. She smirked. Maybe we should enlist a tech expert. Do you know anyone? I know a guy. Matt. He is sharp, and he owes me a favor. Before Marcus could reply, his phone chimed again. This time, it was a voicemail. The fear surged back as he pressed play. Derek's voice was a deep, steady rumble, the kind that sent chills down spines. Marcus, remember who your friends are. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I'd hate to see you caught up in something you can't handle. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He met the woman's eyes. He's trying to intimidate me. Good. That means he's worried, she said, her fist clenching on the table. Worried enough to foolproof his operation, Marcus muttered, feeling the weight of his own caution. What if he's one step ahead? What if he isn't? She leaned forward, the intensity radiating between them. You know your community better than anyone. People see what's happening. They just need someone to rally them, someone to lead. Me? His voice cracked. I'm just one person. You're strong. You can unearth local support. This isn't just about taking Derek down, it's about giving your community a voice, she encouraged, the earnestness in her words soothing the chaos swirling in his head. He took a deep breath, considering her words. If we can pull this off, it could mean everything. But if we fail, we won't, she interrupted, a smile creeping onto her lips. You just have to believe in your cause, believe in what you're fighting for. Her belief sparked something inside him, a flicker of hope. This was bigger than him. He had a duty to his community, to find answers buried beneath the greed. "Okay," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Let us set the plan in motion. But how do we get to Matt? The cafe closes soon. I'll call him now and set up a meeting." "We need to move fast," she replied, urgency lacing her tone. Marcus nodded, adrenaline flooding his veins. "I can't let Derek intimidate me." "Exactly. And while we plan, let us keep our heads down. We can't draw attention too soon." As they gathered their things, moving with purpose, a thrill coursed through Marcus. The battle lines were drawn, and he could feel the path ahead, even though it was fraught with danger. Once outside, the cool evening air hit him like a wave, clearing his mind of the fog. He glanced back toward the cafe, feeling a mixture of fear and anticipation. The fight against Derek was just beginning, and Marcus was ready to charge into the fray, but the question lingered in the back of his mind: would their resolve be enough to topple a giant? He could only hope that courage would guide them through the darkness. The real battle lay ahead. Would the truth surface before they got buried in the lies? Marcus felt the weight of urgency in his chest. With every step he took, shadows of doubt flickered around him. The cafe was bustling behind him, filled with laughter and casual conversations. Life continued as if nothing was wrong. Yet he knew better. He and the woman, who hadn't introduced herself but was somehow the anchor of this spiraling storm, were about to challenge a titan. "Let us go," she said, checking her phone one last time. Marcus followed her as they wound through narrow streets that twisted like an intricately woven story. He wished he had more information about Matt, but trusting this woman felt like the only option. Arriving at a dimly lit bar, the evening light softened by the sheer fabric of the curtains, Marcus could feel his heart thudding loudly in his chest. The place was quiet, too quiet. The bartender nodded at the woman, and they made their way to a booth in the corner. She pulled out her phone, tapping his name into a message. After a few messages exchanged, she looked up, frustration creeping into her voice. "He's running late. But he'll come. He always does." Marcus tried to calm the nerves. What if he doesn't? The thought clenched at him. What if this is just another dead end? She shot him a glance. "Look, I get it. If Matt doesn't show up, we'll think on our feet. We've got each other, remember that." He nodded, though uncertainty tugged at him. He was just a regular guy amidst the chaos. Minutes passed, each one stretching like a thin thread. A breeze swept through the door, causing a flicker of anxiety. Marcus hated feeling exposed. Just as he opened his mouth to voice a concern, the door swung wide, and a tall figure stepped in. Matt was a whirlwind of energy, his presence commanding attention. As he walked in, his hair was tousled, and his messenger bag hung carelessly by his side. Sorry. Traffic was a nightmare. Let us cut to the chase. What's the mission?" His eyes sparkled with a blend of mischief and intelligence. The woman wasted no time, diving into their plan. Marcus sat there, amazed by the way they clicked, a team forged from necessity. As they explained their strategy, the pieces began to fall into place like an intricate puzzle. The tension in the air shifted slightly, charged with the possibility of action. This guy, Derek, isn't just a local businessman. He's a power player, Matt said, his tone serious. But you've got me on board now. I can help infiltrate his system, uncover those financial reports you mentioned. It's not going to be easy, but if there are cracks, I can exploit them. Marcus felt a surge of hope at the thought of having someone like Matt on their side. What do you need from us? His voice was steadier now, the words emerging from a place of purpose. First, give me a rundown. What do you know about where he keeps his files? Any security measures? Matt leaned forward, a fire ignited behind his eyes, and Marcus found his own resolve began to solidify. They brainstormed, sharing insights and mapping out potential routes and obstacles. As their voices intertwined, Marcus realized they were crafting their own shield against Derek's looming presence. Amidst the planning, they exchanged laughter, lightening the oppressive weight that enveloped them, but just as the momentum reached its peak, another ping echoed from Matt's phone, interrupting the moment. "Hold on." His face paled as he read the message. "What is it?" the woman asked, her voice taut with tension. "It's Derek," Matt replied, anxiety creeping into his tone. "He's on to us. He's asking about unauthorized access attempts on his files. We have to move fast." The excitement that had built up within Marcus exploded into fear. "What does that mean for us?" Matt's expression hardened. "It means we don't have a choice now. We go in tonight." The words hung heavy in the air. Every heartbeat seemed to echo the urgency of their mission. Was he ready to take this leap of faith? Could they really turn the tide against someone like Derek, who seemed to have eyes everywhere? As the gravity of their situation settled in, Marcus felt the fire of determination ignite again. "Let us do it." He swallowed hard, steeling himself. Tonight, they would taste the dangerous edge of their battle, but what price would courage demand? Marcus felt adrenaline coursing through him. Tonight was not just another night, it was the start of something monumental. They exchanged quick nods, and closed the space between them. The weight of Derek's scrutiny pressed hard against the walls of the bar, reminding them of the storm they were walking into. "Do we have everything?" the woman asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flickering in her eyes. "Facts, figures, and a plan. We need to get in and out without drawing attention," Matt responded, his voice firm. "Marcus, you'll take point on distraction." "Distraction?" Marcus felt his heart race even faster. "What kind of distraction?" "You'll be the charm," Matt said with a smirk, the face. "Derek 1T expects someone like you in his world." The woman leaned in closer. "We need you to act natural. Get into the lobby, engage Derek, whatever it takes. While you're keeping him busy, Matt and I will access the files. We'll create a window wide enough to get in without being seen." "Right. Easy enough," Marcus replied, lacing his fingers together as anxiety clawed at him. He dreaded the idea of being on the stage, but this was about more than just him. This was about standing against someone who caused pain to so many. Matt stood, clapping his hands together, something electrifying sparking in his eyes. "Let us do this. We move in an hour. Get your game faces on." With that, they drifted apart, each preparing in their own way. Marcus made a mental checklist as he paced outside, breathing in the cool night air. Thoughts of his family flooded in, how long they had suffered under the weight of Derek's relentless power. He'd spent too long being afraid. Tonight he would stand tall, shield his loved ones, and confront the darkness head-on. They converged at the bar's entrance once again, a triumvirate of resolve. Clad in dark attire, they looked like shadow warriors ready to take on a formidable enemy. The woman's hair glinted under the sparse street lamps, and Matt paced like a caged lion. "Let us go," she said, and, without a moment's hesitation, they stormed into the world of lurking danger. Inside, the atmosphere electrified further. Dim lighting illuminated sleek furniture and scattered conversations. Every nuance seemed amplified: shuffling feet, glass clinking, laughter. Fragments of television screens flashed nearby, catching glimmers of the harried news of corporate chaos. Marcus's heart raced as he spotted Derek across the room, his commanding presence unmistakable. Derek's smirk seemed to mock him, an arrogant challenge throwing fire on Marcus's determination. "Remember what we talked about," Matt whispered, his voice full of urgency. "Get his attention. We're counting on you." Marcus nodded, feeling a rush of courage washed with fear. He squared his shoulders and moved forward, preparing to blend into the high-stakes world of power and deception. "Hey, Derek," he called out, projecting confidence he didn't entirely feel. The CEO turned, surprised to see him approaching. "Well, if it isn't the everyman." Derek's voice boomed across the bar, laughter trailing his words. Can't a guy have a drink? Marcus shot back, forcing a smile as he walked closer. The air crackled, a tightrope stretched above a chasm filled with uncertainty and danger. Derek studied him for a moment, a flicker of recognition, then, the mask returned. What's your deal? You're not normally one to drop in here. Looking for a side gig? As the small talk unfolded, Marcus held tight to the thread of control, calculating each move, each word. But beneath his bravado, a whisper of panic crept in. Could he hold attention long enough for Matt and the woman? Just then, a commotion erupted at the back. Matt had acted, but he wasn't alone. Another figure crashed against the wall, sending glasses shattering to the floor. Noise escalated, shouts filled the air, signaling a distraction far bigger than any he could muster. Keep him busy. The woman yelled from behind, urgency piercing through the chaos. Marcus's heart sank. Derek was now watching the hubbub, interest peaked. The plan was unraveling, and time was slipping away. Hey, Derek. Marcus raised his voice over the clamor of chaos. Let's talk business. How about that partnership you mentioned last week? Derek turned, eyes flashing with intrigue but also suspicion. Partnership, huh? You've got my attention. Marcus felt the thin thread of fate balancing in the air. Would he be able to keep Derek's focus while chaos reigned, or would it all come crashing down around them? Suddenly, Marcus realized they were not just fighting for information but the very integrity of their futures. Could courage outshine despair when the stakes were this high? Partnership, huh? You've got my attention. Derek's words dripped with skepticism as he leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing. Marcus felt small but resolute, the pressure tightening around him like a noose. Every second counted. Yeah, I mean, we both know that merging resources could really leverage both our strengths. Marcus scrambled for confident words, each syllable dripping with the hope that this would distract Derek long enough. Behind him, the sounds of chaos grew louder, a storm of pounding feet and raised voices. Derek waved a hand dismissively, his grin fixing itself back in place. You think I'll just hand over the company for a couple of drinks and sweet talk? You're either braver than I thought or just plain foolish. Marcus's heart thundered. Bravery is just another word for facing your fears, right? He shot back, realizing he was aiming for a daring approach, one he hadn't anticipated. He had the man's full attention, he could not let it slip away. Derek leaned back, calculating, eyes flicking away for just a beat toward the ruckus. Marcus felt a momentary flicker of hope, the inevitable was almost here. But Derek's focus returned swiftly. And what's in it for you, Marcus? You think you can just waltz in here and stick your nose in business that doesn't concern you? Maybe I just want to help people, Marcus shot back, his voice pitching higher under the strain of honesty. Those who suffer under your decisions. You might have power, Derek, but that doesn't make it right. The words hung in the air. For a fleeting moment, Derek's expression shifted, something flickered behind his eyes. But then the confidence rolled back in, an uneasy chuckle escaping him. You think a few words are going to change my mind? You're not in a position to counsel anyone. In the back of Marcus's mind, there was doubt creeping in. Maybe he was losing ground. The urgency of Matt and the woman pulling files raced through his thoughts. This was more than his confrontation, and he felt it slipping away. Suddenly, the noise amplified. A group surged forward, and the crowd's energy shifted with palpable tension. Shadows danced, amplified by the flashing screens around them. Then, like a bolt of lightning, Matt emerged through the throngs, a flash drive in hand and a smile of victory. Behind him, the woman held back the tide of security, her fierce stance a wall of determination. Marcus. Now! Matt shouted, urgency and triumph entangled in his voice. The moment of distraction worked. Derek's attention shifted to the looming chaos, his mouth tightening into a thin line of irritation. But the flicker was all Marcus needed. Right. So about that partnership, he pressed on, knowing full well the game was changing. Derek's pulse quickened as he took in the scene unraveling around them, the power starting to shift. "You're playing a dangerous game, kid." "Yes, but I'd argue I'm not the one doing most of the playing, am I?" Marcus countered, surprising even himself with the bravado. Every heartbeat felt like a drumroll echoing in his chest, then the atmosphere shifted. Matt dropped the flash drive onto the bar, and sparks of electricity seemed to dance as the data transfer began, revealing secrets that could unravel Derek's empire. The tension escalated, the eyes of the room transitioning from entertainment to the heart of a brewing storm. "Your move, Derek," Marcus taunted, voice strong, just as the buzz of realization swept through the gathered crowd. They were witnessing a showdown, and the stakes had never been higher. What would Derek do now, with every secret poised to be revealed? Would he fight back or show the strength of his character? The answers lingered ominously in the air. In that moment of suspended time, Marcus felt a tremor of hope swell within him. Here they were, standing at the precipice of change. Could they flip the narrative? Could they reshape their futures forever? As Marcus locked eyes with Derek, he understood, it was all or nothing now. Would courage and the strength of a united front redefine not just one night but their entire lives? With the tension mounting and the crowd waiting with bated breath, the pivotal moment crackled in the air. What was Derek's next move? Would he fold, or would he unleash a fury they hadn't seen coming? The air buzzed with anticipation as Derek stared down Marcus, weighing his options. The seconds felt like hours. The crowd shifted, a collective breath held, eyes glued to the unfolding drama. Silence followed, thick and electrifying, until Derek finally broke it. "All right, Marcus. You've got balls, I'll give you that," he growled, irritation flickering into grudging respect. Marcus felt a rush of adrenaline. This was the moment. "This isn't just about you anymore, Derek. You understand that, right? It's about everyone you hold hostage with your decisions." A low murmur rippled through the crowd. He could see some of them nodding, fired up by his words. The tide was turning, and he felt it deep in his bones. Derek shook his head, his face tight. "You think this little stunt will change something? You're out of your league." "Not anymore," Matt chimed in, stepping closer, the flash drive still glowing ominously on the bar. "Look at these people, Derek. They know what you've done. It's time for the truth." The tension was palpable. It felt like an elastic band stretched to its breaking point. Derek's glance darted once more toward his security team, who were, thankfully, still held at bay by the fierce woman, her stance defiant. "Are you willing to share those little secrets?" Marcus pressed, needling at Derek while keeping his composure intact. "Or will you protect your empire of lies?" Another pause. It was a chess match, and the stakes were far more than just pieces on the board. It was about freedom, justice, and the accountability that desperately needed to be served. Derek finally shifted, leaning in as if he might spill all in a moment of vulnerability. "You think you can just waltz in here and dictate terms? You think this is how it works?" "Maybe it's how it should work," Marcus replied, confidence surging. "People should matter more than profits. If you can't see that, then you're too blind to lead." Derek's expression darkened, but in that instant, there was a pulse of uncertainty, a flicker where arrogance met doubt. From the bar, the flash drive completed its upload. A soft beep echoed, and as if on cue, the lights in the establishment flickered before shifting to a series of images on the screens above them. Gasps erupted around the room. Secrets streamed like a cascading waterfall, dates, amounts, names, each revealing the underbelly of Derek's business practices. The truth was splashed across the monitors for all to see, igniting anger and fear intermingled. "Now, this is where the real game begins," Matt called out, his voice echoing triumphantly. Marcus turned back to Derek, determination etched across his face. "It's not just about surviving anymore. It's about doing what's right." As the revelation blossomed in the room, Marcus could see the weight of defeat slowly parade across Derek's face. It was a satisfaction tinged with cautious optimism. Yet, the uncertainty was still lurking beneath the surface. Would Derek fight back? Would he leverage his connections to retaliate in ways that Marcus couldn't foresee? The crowd around them erupted into conversation. Some were shouts of disbelief while others were voices of support for Marcus and Matt. The energy shifted, it was alive, electric. For a brief moment, Marcus dared to hope. Was there a chance they could change not only their lives but countless others? But Derek's laughter cut through the noise, dark and foreboding. You think this is over? You think this makes you heroes? You have no idea what you're getting into. Silence fell again, tension thick enough to cut. Derek's eyes danced with a mix of fury and something darker. What if this is just the beginning? He whispered, his voice barely audible over the rumble of the crowd. Marcus felt the shiver of foreboding race down his spine. What had they stirred? The stakes were now higher than ever, and as Marcus locked eyes with Derek one last time, he knew this was far from finished. The battle lines were drawn, but what kind of war were they truly entering? And more importantly, could they survive it? The days that followed the explosive confrontation were surreal. Marcus could feel the weight of the world shifting underfoot, but every exhilaration was laced with a tinge of dread. The screens had displayed Derek's secrets, cracking the facade that had loomed over him like a shadow, yet in the aftermath, chaos replaced clarity. The community rallied around Marcus, their energies igniting a wave of support. People expected change, and that pressure was both a blessing and a burden. The calls flooded in, businesses wanted to partner, and investors sought to meet. But with each new opportunity, the specter of Derek loomed larger than ever. In the safety of his apartment, he pondered the storm ahead. "You've got this, kid," his mother's voice echoed in his mind, a reminder of the warmth that had always cushioned him. But it wasn't doubt that filled his chest, it was urgency. Time was not on his side, and Derek was a man who had powerful allies, people who could protect or destroy him. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the small window, he made a decisive choice. "It's time to go on the offensive," he murmured to himself, a resolute spark igniting deep within. He gathered Matt and the woman who introduced herself as Carla to lay down a plan. "We need to document everything," Matt urged, his fingers flying across a keyboard as they convened at Marcus's apartment. "Emails, messages, statements, even the way his profits have dropped since our little revelation. We create a paper trail. And we involve the community," Carla added, her eyes shining with determination. "Let them know the corruption they've been subjected to, and together, we can build a case strong enough to bring down his empire." Marcus nodded, feeling a swell of unity. "Our strength comes from the people behind us. If they stand with us, we can't lose." They dove into their work, and as they mapped out the layers of deceit and backed it with community testimonials, Marcus was reminded of why he started. He wasn't just fighting for his company, he was fighting for future generations, for every family that deserved better than what Derek offered. Finally, after endless meetings and sleepless nights, they crunched their findings into a report that painted a damning picture. Days turned into weeks as they meticulously crafted their strategy. The next step would be hitting the media hard. Spreading the word became imperative. They needed the public outcry, a collective wave against the injustice. On a chilly morning, they stood before a small podium in front of a local news station. The camera lights flickered on, bathing them in exposure. "This isn't just about me or their profits," Marcus began, voice steady yet charged with emotion. "It's about using our voices, our stories, to break the chains of corruption that have hindered our community for far too long." The message resonated like an unstoppable force. People in the crowd rallied, sharing their experiences and revealing the lives affected by the very decisions Derek had made in his ivory tower. As the story spread, blogs, news outlets, social media, the tide turned. Public opinion swelled against Derek, exposing his practices and laying bare the repercussions of his greed. Marcus could finally sense a power rise, heat flooding through him. But Derek wasn't finished just yet. He would launch his counter, and that was when the smoke and mirrors would reveal their true colors. Weeks later, as Marcus stood in front of the same polished table from that first meeting, the air pulsed with anticipation. He was ready to meet Derek head-on at the investors' conference. He felt like Luke standing against Darth Vader, but now he wielded not only community support but truth as his weapon. When Derek walked in, that same smirk plastered across his face, Marcus's heart pounded. This time, he wasn't naive or intimidated. With renewed determination, he met Derek's cold gaze. "Let us discuss the future," he started, suppressing the tremble of uncertainty. "Your empire is crumbling because your foundation is built on lies." Derek's expression flitted from amusement to irritation. "You think you're making a difference? You've merely made a nuisance of yourself." Marcus snatched the microphone, adrenaline surging. "They've spoken up, Derek. You know why? Because they're no longer afraid. You may hold the illusion of power, but our community is stronger than any one man could ever be." Behind him, Matt held up a stack of documents, the damning evidence of Derek's practices piled high. "We may be just beginning, but the truth is immutable. You can't hide behind walls of funding and corruption forever." As gasps rose from the crowd around them, energy surged. The battle lines had changed. Now it was Derek backed into the corner, facing the collective strength of a united community. In that moment, realization flooded through Marcus. This wasn't just for him anymore, it was for everyone who had suffered silence, who had been held captive by fear. He held on to that thought, clarity pouring into his heart. "Let us see who the real fighters are," he challenged Derek, and in that one powerful moment, Marcus leaned into the full embrace of courage. Here, in the maze of corporate deceit, there was hope, forged in the fire of collective truth. When Derek turned to leave, his arrogance stripped away, that old machine was broken. The feeling of victory was undeniable, though he knew the fight was far from over. But together, they would expose darkness, and together, they would shine brighter than any corporate greed. As the applause erupted around him, Marcus looked out to his community, his family, and their hands raised in unison. It was over. They had transformed humiliation into hope, and the $2.4 billion victory was no longer just a dream, it was a truth already being written. In that moment, Marcus Lee wasn't just a CEO. He was a beacon of the resilience and strength that truly defines the American dream, and as the cheers filled the room, one thing echoed louder than anything else: "We're just getting started." Now, here's where you come in. You need to subscribe now to keep up with these inspiring stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum going. Comment your biggest takeaway from this incredible journey and how it impacted you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second, the timing is perfect to spread the word and empower each other. Your support means everything.